You've heard it 1,000 times. 8 glasses of water a day. 64 ounces. It's printed on water bottles, repeated by doctors, drilled into us since childhood. It sounds so official, so scientific. 8 glasses, a nice round number backed by decades of medical wisdom. Except there's a problem. That medical wisdom, it doesn't exist. And today, we're tracing exactly how a misquoted sentence from 1945 became one of the most persistent health myths ever created. Here's what makes this myth special. It's not like flat Earth or fake moon landings. 8 glasses sounds completely reasonable. Drink water, that's just good sense, right? And that's exactly why this myth has survived for 80 years. It's plausible enough that nobody bothers to check. But we did. And what we found is a masterclass in how misinformation spreads. We found the exact sentence that started it all. We found who benefits from keeping this myth alive. And we found something that might genuinely surprise you about your own body. Let's start at the beginning. The year is 1945. World War II has just ended. The U.S. Food and Nutrition Board is updating its dietary guidelines for Americans. This board publishes something called Recommended Dietary Allowances, basic guidance on nutrients, how much vitamin C, how many calories, and yes, how much water. According to McGill University researchers, the 1945 recommendation stated that an adult needs about 2.5 liters of water daily. That's roughly 8 glasses. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? But here's the part everyone forgot. The very next sentence in that 1945 document said most of this water intake should come from food. From food, not from drinking glasses of water. McGill University's investigation found that the original 1945 recommendation was never based on any actual research. It was simply an estimate, a rough guess that became gospel. So we have a 1945 estimate. Not a study, just an estimate, that said total water intake including food should be about 8 cups. That's the origin. That's patient zero for this myth. Now watch what happens over the next 50 years. The recommendation travels from government document to medical textbook to popular health magazine. Each time, it gets a little simpler. 2.5 liters becomes 8 glasses. Including food becomes drink this much. A nuanced guideline becomes a rigid rule. The crucial context vanishes. By the 1990s, drink 8 glasses of water a day had become common knowledge. Doctors repeated it. Fitness magazines printed it. Nobody asked where it came from. This is how misinformation works. The original source gets buried. The simple version is easier to remember. And soon, the simple version is the only version anyone knows. In 2002, Dr. Heinz Valtin of Dartmouth Medical School decided to actually check. He conducted an exhaustive literature review looking for any scientific evidence supporting 8 glasses. Dr. Valtin's conclusion, published in the American Journal of Physiology, he found no scientific studies supporting the 8x8 rule, not one. The advice, he wrote, appears to lack scientific proof. Valtin called it what it was. The universal advice that made guzzling water a national pastime is more urban myth than medical dogma. A Dartmouth professor, calling it an urban myth. You'd think that would settle it. A peer-reviewed paper in a major medical journal debunking a common health belief. Surely the myth would fade away after that. It didn't. The 8 glasses myth kept spreading. It actually seemed to gain momentum in the 2000s, right when Valtin published his debunking. And that's not a coincidence. Here's where it gets interesting. In 2011, Dr. Margaret McCartney published an investigation in the British Medical Journal. She followed the money. McCartney discovered that one prominent hydration advocacy group called Hydration for Health wasn't an independent health organization at all. It was created by Danone, the French food giant that owns Evian and Volvic, a bottled water company funding research about why you should drink more bottled water. The conflict of interest is so obvious it's almost impressive in its audacity. This is where the myth transforms from simple misunderstanding into something more deliberate. When there's profit involved, myths don't die quietly. They get marketing budgets. The bottled water industry is worth over $300 billion globally. When you convince people they need 8 glasses of water beyond what they get from food, you're creating an enormous market. Think about it. If people accepted that their coffee, tea, soup, fruits, and vegetables all count toward hydration, they might not buy as many bottles. They might trust their thirst. And trusting your thirst? That's terrible for bottled water sales. Much better if people feel anxious about their hydration, if they carry water bottles everywhere like a security blanket. But let's be clear about what the actual science says. The U.S. National Academies of Sciences recommends 92 to 124 ounces daily for adults. That sounds like a lot more than 8 glasses. Here's the catch. That total includes all water from food and beverages. The steak you had for dinner? 20 to 30% water. An apple? 86% water. Lettuce is 96% water. Watermelon, aptly named, is 92%. When you eat these foods, you're drinking without realizing it. This is what the 1945 recommendation actually meant. Your total water intake from all sources should be about 2.5 liters. Most people get this naturally without counting glasses. According to Snopes, as a general rule, drinking when you're thirsty is a good way to ensure your fluid needs are met. The body's thirst mechanism is highly effective. Your body has been regulating hydration for millions of years of evolution. The thirst mechanism didn't suddenly become unreliable because someone invented bottled water. There's a simple indicator that works better than counting glasses: your urine color. Clear or light yellow means you're well hydrated. Dark yellow means drink something. It's such an elegant system. Your body communicates its needs and you respond. No apps required. No anxious counting. Just basic biological feedback that humans have used forever. But wait, if the myth has been debunked since 2002, why do so many people still believe it? Why do we still see drink 8 glasses everywhere? Because debunking myths is harder than creating them. The simple version spreads faster. The correction requires explanation. And the bottled water industry keeps the myth alive with marketing. Studies have shown that correcting misinformation often fails because people remember the myth more than the correction. The 8 glasses number is catchy. It depends on your individual needs is not. This is the irony. Water is essential for life. Staying hydrated matters. But the rigid 8 glasses rule isn't about health. It's about making hydration seem more complicated than it is. So here's what actually matters. Drink when you're thirsty. That's it. Your body knows what it needs and tells you clearly. Trust the mechanism that kept your ancestors alive. Your water needs change. Hot day? Drink more. Eating lots of fruits and vegetables? You might need less. Exercising intensely? Your body will demand fluids. Listen to it. Remember that food counts. A meal with vegetables, fruits, soup, you're hydrating as you eat. This was the original point of the 1945 recommendation that everyone forgot. Check your urine color instead of counting glasses. That's your personalized hydration monitor, no app subscription required. Light yellow to clear means you're doing fine. Be skeptical when hydration advice comes from organizations with commercial ties to beverage companies. Ask who funded the study. Follow the money. If you want more stories like this, where we trace viral claims back to their origins and find out who profits, consider subscribing. We do this investigation work every week. There's a bigger lesson here beyond hydration. Health myths persist when they're simple, when they feel scientific, and when powerful interests benefit from spreading them. The 8 glasses myth checks all 3 boxes. Easy to remember. Sounds like it came from scientists, and the bottled water industry made billions keeping it alive. This matters because health myths crowd out real advice. When people focus on counting glasses, they might ignore actual hydration signals. The myth becomes a distraction from what works. The good news is that your body doesn't care about the myth. It keeps functioning exactly as it should. Thirst still works. Kidneys still regulate. Biology doesn't read marketing materials. Certain populations do need to monitor hydration more carefully. Elderly individuals whose thirst response has diminished. Athletes during intense training. People with specific medical conditions. For these groups, paying attention to intake matters more. But even then, the answer isn't 8 glasses exactly. It's working with healthcare providers to find what works for you specifically. The 1945 recommendation was trying to be helpful. It was giving Americans a rough sense of daily water needs. The problem was what happened after the simplification, the forgetting, the commercialization. Someone strips a sentence from its context. Someone else repeats the simplified version. A company sees profit potential. Soon, the original meaning is completely buried. Dr. Valtin spent years tracing this myth. He contacted the original sources. He reviewed decades of literature. His conclusion was clear. There was never any science behind 8 glasses. And yet his debunking didn't kill the myth. 20 years later, we're still explaining this. Some myths are too useful to let die. So here's your verdict. The 8 glasses rule? It's not medical advice. It's a misquote that became marketing, a 1945 estimate that lost its context and found a profit motive. Drink when you're thirsty. Eat foods with water content. Check your urine color. Your body has been doing this for millions of years. It doesn't need a corporate hydration consultant. The myth started with a misquote in 1945. It was amplified by companies selling what your body already provides for free, and now you know the whole story. The 8 glasses lie isn't dangerous, but it's a perfect example of how simple claims travel further than complicated truths, and that's worth remembering next time you see health advice go viral.